and play along. AFA.net is where I want you to go and get a critter for a family who needs one with Gospel for Asia. Click on the Gospel for Asia button there and be part of it. It's AFA Today. Last night at Madison Square Garden here in New York City, we got our first little taste of Dr. David Jeremiah, but also his worship team and so forth celebrating the Christmas holidays. Take a listen. Oops, that's not piped into the. I'll get it piped in the system. Anyway, you could see a little bit of that on the screen if you're watching on the channel. Have more of those highlights from last night. But Dr. David Jeremiah actually putting the Jeremiah Study Bible into kicking it into play, so to speak. And a fun night in New York with about 6,000 people that had come literally from all over the country. And there were several people that came to me last night that say they listened to AFR every single day, and they had come all the way to New York to celebrate with Dr. David Jeremiah, and it was just a phenomenal time. And it made me think about something. It's a shame that when believers get together, they don't have more fun. Because I thought, wow, what an awesome experience to celebrate something truly important that everybody there believed in and agreed with, and that is that the Scripture is important. And so it was a fun time, spectacular time, in one of the funnest cities you can be in at Christmas time specifically. New York is an amazing place. A lot of people think of it as being, in the frozen cold tundra of the liberal Northeast. And it is, on some level. They just elected a communist, Marxist, somebody that makes Obama look conservative for mayor. And I say they because I didn't vote for him. But here's the thing. It is a city that still celebrates Christmas in its glory. The Radio City Music Hall, some people don't know this, the Radio City Music Hall does its big Christmas Spectacular. That's what they call it. They call it the Christmas Spectacular. They don't call it the Winter Holiday Spectacular. They don't call it the whatever else they may be inclined to call it. They don't call it any of those things. They call it the Radio City Music Hall Christmas Spectacular. And of course, they have the Rockettes, and those are kind of legendary. But at the end, after the whole program is done, they have, for every year that the program has been in effect. And they have silly stuff. They've got Santa and Frosty and all the other stuff in the early part of it. And kids come and clap and they have a good time. But at the end, and they've always done this, and this isn't in Nashville, this isn't in Birmingham, this isn't in Tupelo or Fort Lauderdale or Atlanta or any place like that. This is in New York. They have a live, living story of the Nativity. So in the original King James, thou art thou, thou'st, thynst, and so forth, thou'st, and said, and he saith, and thou'st. They read, I think it's Luke 2, and you see the camel, and you see the donkey, and you see Mary and Joseph, and they tell the whole story, and it's really, really cool. Not only that, the city goes all out. The different retailers and so forth that have private window displays, they do something for Christmas every year. And it may not be exactly the same type of Christmas that you observe, but since we always talk about, the Merry Christmas buttons and the war on Christmas and all the other stuff, I am really proud of my city. They get a lot of things wrong. They get Christmas right. And I think that's a good thing. So we're going to talk about some more of that today. Kevin McCullough, very glad you're with us. 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. But we did have a good time. Actually, Dr. Jeremiah said something last night that I thought was just one of the most profound quotes I've heard in a long time. This is one of the things he said. God's man, living in the center of God's will, is immortal until God completes his work in him. Meaning that if God gives you a job to do, nothing will touch you until you've completed that job. You're bulletproof until that job is done. Pretty cool, huh? God's man living in the center of God's will is immortal until God completes his work in him. That's just really, really good. And everybody that was in attendance last night got a copy of the Jeremiah Study Bible. So that was another fun reason to be there. But for those of you that traveled from, and we spoke with people from Ohio and Pennsylvania and Michigan, some from Mississippi, a couple of them from Florida, all of you that came and came up to me and said, Kev, we hear you every day. Thank you for being there. I want to say thank you to you. I know that it was not easy for you to get to New York this time of year, but fun to have some of the AFA, AFR, and family gathered from across from the universe. All right, today, got some treats for you. Those of you that don't normally watch this show, you just hear it on your radio, but you don't normally go to afr.net and watch the video version of it. I want you today to make an exception to that in the final segment of what we're going to do, because I have a Christmas treat for you. I came bearing gifts today. This is going to be fun. Actually, Brent and I were talking about this earlier this week. A really special holiday treat for you, Christmas treat. It includes Christmas carols. It includes a rather magical use of one instrument to produce what sounds like an entire, well, how would you describe it, Brent? An entire band of instruments, I guess. I mean, you got those of you that are discriminating in your musical taste, you'll hear a whole bunch of stuff. But I want it's as much fun to see this as it is to hear it, and to know that there are 8 hands involved in this process, all using only one instrument. You don't want to miss this, and you really do want to see it. So if you normally listen to the show only, I want you to go to afr.net sometime before the end of the show, and then when you get there in the last segment, I want you to make it full screen on your computer so that you can see the entire thing. And I'm warning you far enough in advance now so that if you have to get by a computer to do this, you have time to do it. But it's a little Christmas treat for you. And I'm going to try to have one of these every Friday up through Christmas Day. But today's will be kind of fun, and I think you'll have a blast doing it. Okay, so we got that out of the way. A couple of other things I want to get to. Yes, indeed. I have an update on an old story. You remember that story we talked about a few weeks ago where the waitress in New Jersey claimed she had been stiffed by a God-fearing couple that had said that she was talking about them, and they produced the receipt in which the waitress said they stiffed me, and she showed a receipt to all the news outlets, and it showed that the dinner was $93.55. It was at a place called the Gallup Asian Bistro in Branchburg, New Jersey. Remember that? Remember that story? Do you remember how she blamed it on something? She said that this family came in, they had this big meal, $93.55 worth of a meal, and that they left her 0 tip. And that they did it. She didn't just say they stiffed her. She went to the media. She made herself available to the media to tell her story, to get her side of this out there. So she proactively was very, very involved in trying to make a point. Do you remember that? Remember all that? Okay, we talked about that. Okay. When she said it happened, she quickly emailed the activist website that supports people who engage in homosexual behavior. And I don't remember which one it was, but she emailed them the story. She showed them a picture of the receipt. That's where all the television networks picked it up, and she was literally heard stem to stern across the country. Oh, this terrible thing has happened to this woman because she engages in lesbian activity, and because of that, this family judged her and told her she was terrible and all the rest of it, and didn't leave her a tip. Okay, so we have an update on this, and I've put this on the afatoday.com website. We have a little update to this story, and it's important that we know the truth about this story. Yeah, that isn't what happened, really. That's part of the update. The other update is she kept saying, well, donations are coming in from all over the country. Now, I don't know really how she set that up. Did she set up a page? Did this waitress, who really wasn't quite smart enough to figure out that there may be a second copy of the receipt out there somewhere, so she probably shouldn't be showing a receipt that's like all doctored up with lies and fraudulent evidence on it of what actually happened, that marking up a receipt and well, okay, she's not the smartest. She didn't even remember that. So how did she get those donations? Were they just mysteriously appearing at her address that she gave to no one? Did she go home and get the Internet for Dummies book and start setting up a web page and then have like some sort of SEO campaign out there so that people could send donations through the web? I don't know. I don't know what she did. I don't know how she did it. But what she kept telling the media was that people were sending in thousands of dollars of donations because her story touched them. There was such a human element to this story that here she was, this innocent little girl waiting tables in this restaurant in New Jersey, and this horrible, horrible family had come in and expressed such a severe homophobia and had said to her, "We're not going to tip you because of the things you engage in." And it turned out not to be true. But that's all beside the fact. She told this story, and she said thousands of dollars came in. I'm going to have several thousands of dollars to give. And she even said who she was going to give it to. I'm going to give thousands of dollars that have come in through this donation experience to the Wounded Warriors Project. Okay, so now she's invoking, not only has she besmirched the reputation of a faith-based family that was so afraid of the public reaction, they had to go anonymous in their news response. They had to be shot in silhouette because there was a fear of retaliation from the people that supported this other woman. Okay, so so she already has involved one innocent family that didn't do what she said, but instead had to prove to the world that they hadn't done what they said, and still were afraid for their existence. But not only that, now she's gone over and she said, these thousands of dollars of donations that came in, I'm going to help the Wounded Warriors. You know who the Wounded Warriors are, don't you? They're the people that have put their life on the line to pay the ultimate price for you and me to have our freedoms. These are the people that went to Iraq and Afghanistan and other places where they've been called to, and they had an arm blown off or a leg blown off or half their face blown off. And they've come back and they've had reconstructive surgery and they've had post-traumatic stress and they've had hours of counseling and they've had to pour out their heart and tears and life because when they gave that ultimate piece of sacrifice, that piece of their body that they have no more, they came back as only partially physically who they were before. And in some cases only partially emotionally or mentally or in other ways in which they've paid a tremendous sacrifice for me and for you and for everyone else that's involved in this nation's current existence. And she said, I'm going to give money to the Wounded Warriors, the people that have paid the biggest sacrifice. Well, it turns out, and here's the update, she's given not one red cent of those monies to the Wounded Warriors. And I think it's important for us to know that. I'm Kevin McCullough, coming right back. This is AFA Today on AFR Talk.